Hello, everyone. I thought I would talk to you about what it's like to try and socialize as a writer, or just as a creative person in general. Now, as some of you might know, my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, passed away a few days ago, and I attended his funeral, which one day, of course, was a visitation. The next day was the funeral. And I've probably had more social interactions in the last few days I mean, at least with people I don't know very well, than in some of the previous years combined, in the last few years combined. And of course, that created a huge mental stress, especially for someone like me who is an introvert. And one of the things that I found, though, is that I am not I'm not very good at small talk, for one thing. I'm not very good at, like, very often, especially if I'm in a room with a lot of people trying to make conversation. It's like I'm in a mental fog. Like, I can't even think coherently. Like, sometimes I'm just sitting there thinking, what can I say? I can't think of anything to say. There were a couple of times where people asked about my books or writing, and I was able to be somewhat sociable then. But I often find that there are some people who all they know is kind of small talk, and so talking to them is like talking to mist. There isn't really a lot there behind it, and so because I've often found that people, I'm not saying everybody, of course, I would never say that, but there are some people who, if they don't have kind of a creative or artistic or intellectual mindset, then it's very difficult to have a conversation with them where you can probe more deeply. But I'm not going to blame it all on other people. Like, I also think that it's very difficult for me to have, let's say, conversations with people, or like lengthy conversations about things or subjects that I don't have any passionate interest in. Like, and not only because I often can't think of things to say, but it's also just because if something doesn't interest me, I just find it difficult to keep, the conversation going. It's not that I have necessarily a narrow range of interests. Like, for example, I'm interested in, but writing, literature. That's probably what I'm most interested in. But also things like philosophy, religion, film, movies, particularly classic film. But those are subjects that often don't come up in just surface level conversation. Like, some people might try to talk about sports, which I'm really not interested in at all, and or the weather, or in this particular case, in at the funeral, people will talk about people that they know, or like, I know so and so. Do you know so and so? Well, it's difficult for me to participate in conversations like that because I don't know who these people are talking about half the time. No, I don't know so and so, and so it's very difficult for me to think quickly on my feet when it comes to trivial conversation. Um, I, I guess you could call it a deficiency, but also at the same time, it's just I find such conversation to be just very, boring and unstimulating. And I think that creative artists have always had to deal with that a little bit, because I'm not saying that I'm better than other people. I don't want you to get that impression, but I am different in that regard. And creative artists have always struggled to relate to other people who seem to be on a different mental wavelength to them, and they can't quite relate. And so I think that's partly due to my artistic personality, and also due to the fact that I'm an introvert, why I struggle so much with conversations.